The Build a List tool is one of the unique and the premier tools of this database. You can access the most popular criteria to build a list right here on the home page, but it probably just makes sense to go ahead and access all the criteria by clicking on the actual Build a List page. It's worth noting here at the beginning that your results list is currently standing at 87 million companies. That's how many companies are in the database. As you add criteria to your list, this is going to become a smaller number. It's worth keeping an eye on this list. It's going to automatically adjust as you go. If it gets to be too small, maybe you want to make your criteria a bit broader. On the other hand, if when you're done adding the criteria you intended to add, it's still a very, very large list, maybe you need to go back and add more search criteria. I really think that this is the premier tool both for business professionals and students. As a business professional, this tool was designed for you. It's intended to help you build a company prospects list. For students, even if you're doing research generally on an industry or on specific companies within an industry, it makes sense to go about the search this way rather than using the general search boxes, because this is going to end with a list that you can download, print, physically hold in your hand, so all that research you did will be nice and organized, and you can access it later either through the My Hoovers section of the site right here, or actually have it somewhere physically. Alright, let's get started. So I think it makes sense to just go through the criteria one by one. We'll start with the company location criteria. Notice that you can access any set of criteria just by hitting the plus or minus sign. And when you're ready to move on to the next one, you just open up the next pull down. To start with company location, this is going to allow us to filter which companies we're interested in by geographical area. Notice that you can search for records that match every location criteria entered or that match any location criteria entered. So let's say we're sticking to our general theme of looking into footwear manufacturing, or let's even say we're a footwear manufacturing company and we're interested in sales opportunities, shoe stores in the Northeast US, let's say. We can go ahead and choose, you have some options here. You can choose to search by city, county, metro area. I'm going to go ahead and search by US state. And let's say we're interested in selling to shoe stores in New York. Go ahead and add that right there. New Hampshire. And Vermont, let's say. And we're going to go ahead and add Massachusetts too. As I said earlier, this is taking into consideration how broad or narrow I want my list to be. It might make sense if you're really only interested in companies in New York, then go ahead and only search for New York. But if you're just interested in the Northeast in general, you're just trying to get a sense of what's in the area, it makes sense to start broader for now and go ahead and specify later if your list is too large when you're finished. You can also go ahead and search by area code, zip codes, and you can search for companies within a specific zip code radius, so within 50 miles of, say, my particular company's headquarters, if that's important to me. Moving on to the next set of search criteria. Notice my results list has already decreased significantly. I'm going to further filter my search now by company information, by location type, D&B pre-screen score, ownership type, exchange, DUNS numbers, etc. We talked about the D&B pre-screen score before. It's how likely the companies on this list are to be delinquent in paying their dues within the next 12 months. Let's say we only want people that are up to a medium risk. We don't want to deal with high-risk companies. Location type, are we concerned with only accessing top decision makers in headquarters, or are we interested in people in single locations as well? Are we interested in branches or not? Do we care if the company is publicly owned or privately owned? If it's a subsidiary or a parent company? Do they own or rent the property? Do they do any foreign trade? Do we care how old they are? Do we care if they're only 2 years old? Now, DUNS numbers, you can go ahead and enter them manually or upload a list of up to 5,000 numbers. Again, remember, you can always use this nice feature, go ahead and click on the question mark if you're unsure what they're asking for. In this case, a DUNS number is basically the social security number of a business. Next up is industry criteria. Filtering companies by Hoover Industries, SIC codes, or NAICS codes. I mentioned the NAICS and the SIC codes earlier. It will really help if you wrote those down and you want to go ahead and add them as criteria now. However, if you didn't, Hoover's Industries has a classification system of their own that lets you keyword search. So we know we're interested in shoe stores, so we're just going to go ahead and type in shoe. Shoe stores pops right up. So if you don't have those codes, I still think it would make sense to go ahead now. You can browse or search them right from here. I think that probably makes sense to have those codes. You can add them in here or you can use them in later research. But if that's not something that you're interested in right now, you can go ahead and use the Hoover's Industries. And that's basically the same sort of a classification system within this database specifically. Moving on in our criteria, do we care about the company size? Do we care what their annual sales are, annual growth rate, market cap, number of employees, total employee growth percentage, or their facility size? So in terms of a shoe store, do I care how much square footage the actual facility has? So let's say we do want a business of a certain size. It's worth noting all the numbers that you're entering here are in millions. So if you wanted a business that makes more than $500,000 a year, for example, you're just going to use a decimal. As I mentioned before, go ahead and keep track of the fact that your results list is automatically updating. We are now down to 202 companies. So depending on how large you want that final list to be, you need to keep track of what's happening as you add these criteria. Next up, financial information. I should have noted earlier when I said how much money they make, I was talking about sales. Now here we're talking about, do we care about the net income of the company? Do we care about total assets, net income growth percentage? It's worth noting all of these give you the option to search greater than or equal to a certain amount, less than or equal to a certain amount, or between a certain range of values. In our particular example right now, I'm not going to include criteria under IPO data, but if that is something that matters to your list building, you have the option here to specify an initial public offering, offer amount, price range, or if you care what date it was or who were the underwriters, you can go ahead and add that as criteria. The last two areas to add criteria are a little bit different. For people, for example, if I add in any of this criteria, my list, instead of being a list of companies, is going to become a list of people. So I think we're going to hold off on that for right now. Let's say we want a list of companies. Our final criteria box is keywords. We can keyword search for companies or for people. You go ahead and specify in this drop-down menu. But again, if you're searching for a keyword and you're searching within the category of people, you're going to change your results list from one of companies to one of people. So let's say I've put in all the criteria I'm interested in right now. I have 202 companies on my list. Maybe that's too big, but for now maybe I'm ready for a broad list. I can go ahead and click View Results. So this is my company search results page. Of course, all the companies are in the United States because I specified at the very beginning that I was only interested in companies that were in the Northeast United States. If I scroll down, here's my entire list. My list gives me information on the company name, location, location type, sales in millions of dollars, numbers of employees, SIC code, and phone number. I can choose to organize this list in a variety of ways. Right now it's organized by sales in millions in descending order. So the biggest company sales-wise down to the smallest. Now if I click on any of these company names, note I come right back here to the company overview that we thoroughly explored in another video. I do have some more decisions to make though on this page. Am I satisfied with the list the way it is? Do I want to edit my search? Do I want to add criteria or delete certain criteria? Do I want to save this search criteria so that I can come back and view this same search at a later date? Or if I'm satisfied, I can go ahead and export the list. So just for right now, let's say we're satisfied. We'd click export. And this would take us to our file export options. This just gives you some ability to decide what exactly you want to export. And then you can choose to either download as an Excel or a comma-separated value file. Maybe I didn't want a list of 202 companies though. That's a pretty big list. If I wasn't satisfied with my results, I could come down here and click Edit Search. This is going to take me back to the criteria page, but it's already going to have filled in the criteria that I already entered. So this is a chance to make my criteria either more specific or maybe just different criteria. Maybe I'm not really interested in stores in Massachusetts, for example. Maybe not even Vermont. Or maybe I've decided that I only want to target headquarters. You can see that my results list has already gotten significantly smaller. Again, click View Results, and it will take me back to that same page. Except now if I choose to export my list, it's much smaller. We're down to about 38 results now. Say I'm satisfied with this search. I can go ahead and click Save Search Criteria. You're going to save time by basically having this search already done for you next time you come in. So you just need to give it a name. And if you want to, you can go ahead and add a description. Now that I've saved it, we're going to be able to find it when we go into My Hoovers later. If I'm really looking to get started and get my hands dirty and make some phone calls though, maybe I want more than just these general phone numbers. In which case, maybe we wanted to do a people search rather than a company search. So we're going to go back and we're going to click Edit Search. Of course, we could have chosen just to add people criteria in the beginning, but we can also go back now if we want to. Here's the people criteria right here. You can use criteria based on job function, salary, bonus, total compensation, and or age. Maybe you're interested, for example, in only talking to shoe buyers. You can go ahead and try and search by keyword, but you just saw even when I added an S, I had no results. This is a little bit of a risky way to go about it. I'd recommend going ahead and browsing the list of job functions. It's going to give you a better idea of particular functions that might be good criteria, particular ways that we might have titles for things that maybe you didn't think about that as a keyword. So I am looking for buyers. Probably purchasing is a good guess. Note, these are all the highest level in these lists. If you click this plus button, you're going to get all these subcategories. When you select the upper level category, you're automatically selecting all the subcategories. So let's add that as criteria. You'll notice now that my results list is for people rather than companies. So let's view the results. And here's my results list of 36 people. I have the name, their title, what company they work for, where they work, and potentially additional contact information. Let's go ahead and click on a name. It's going to take you to that person's contact information page. An address, primary phone number, fax number, and we don't have this information, but potentially with ConnectMail you might get an email too. This down here is sort of a thread to follow potentially. These are colleagues of this particular person. If I want to, again, I can go ahead and go right into a LinkedIn search. And I have the same options I had earlier, where I can copy this contact to the My Maya Hoover's information. Let's go ahead and do this one. Or again, I have the option to download it to my computer's storage software. So I think that completes a very basic overview of the Build a List tool. You go ahead and enter your criteria for your particular company prospects list. Keep track of how the criteria affect your number of results and how many results you want in your final list. And then you can view the results, export them and download them, print them, really do whatever you want with them, or go ahead and store them in My Hoovers, which is what we will be exploring next.